Officer Ethan Mercer tightened his grip on the leash, but Angel was already gone. It had all been normal until then. The terminal buzzed with the usual hum of wheels rolling over tiles, parents whispering instructions to tired kids, and flight, announcements echoing through the air. Mercer walked slowly down the line, Angel moving neatly beside him, alert, focused, predictable, just like always. For 3 years, Angel had never stepped out of line. She was the kind of dog that didn't just follow commands. She understood them. She read people better than any scanner or X-ray machine. She wasn't just Mercer's partner. She was his shadow, his shield, his eyes when something felt off. But this time, Angel didn't wait for his command. She jerked forward, almost ripping the leash from his hand. Her head snapped toward a woman with a navy blue stroller at the far end of the customs line. "Angel, heel!" Mercer shouted, instinct taking over. Angel didn't listen. Instead, she lunged, ears up, nose forward, straight toward the stroller. The mother gasped, pulling the stroller closer to her, panic on her face. Angel leapt up, paws landing on the front edge. She barked wildly, tail stiff, body shaking with urgency. Passengers jumped back. A child screamed. A security officer reached for his radio. "Back, everyone back!" Mercer barked, now kneeling beside his dog. "Angel, what is it?" Angel's gaze never left the stroller. Her body was locked like a statue, nose pressed into the folds of a blue baby blanket. Beneath, it a faint metallic glint. Mercer's heart dropped. He lifted the blanket with 2 fingers. "No," he breathed. There, beneath the infant's tiny frame, strapped beneath the stroller padding, was the unmistakable shape of a gun. A loaded Glock 19, safety off, inches from the baby. "Gun!" he shouted. "Everybody down!" In seconds, the terminal exploded into chaos. Security rushed in. The mother froze, clutching the stroller handle, her face pale. Angel didn't move. Mercer knelt beside her, voice low. "You did good, girl." Angel didn't wag her tail. She just stared, eyes unblinking. This wasn't play. This wasn't training. A few feet away, the mother's hands trembled. I didn't know it would be like this," she whispered. Mercer narrowed his eyes. "Then tell me why it's under your baby." The woman shook her head, eyes filling with tears. "It's not what you think." Mercer didn't reply. He reached for his radio. "Requesting secondary inspection. Possible security breach." Angel stayed frozen, guarding the stroller like her life depended on it. Because maybe it did. In all their years together, Angel had never disobeyed, not once. But tonight she had. And somehow Mercer knew. She was right. Something deeper was buried here. Something darker than smuggled metal. And this was only the beginning. "Angel, heel!" Mercer shouted again, his voice sharp now, but Angel didn't budge. The woman clutched the stroller, her voice rising. "Get your dog away from my baby!" But Angel barked louder, short, fast bursts like an alarm. Her paws were planted firmly on the edge of the stroller, nose inches from the baby's blanket. The baby let out a tiny wail, confused and scared. "Ma'am, step back," one of the officers called, hand on his holster. "I'm not doing anything," the woman cried. "That dog's attacking us." Mercer stepped in fast, kneeling beside Angel. "Angel down, now." Still nothing. Her ears were forward, body trembling with intensity. Mercer had never seen her like this. Not during drug busts, not during bomb threats. She was locked in, unshakable. That's when he saw it. The blanket shifted slightly with the baby's movement, and underneath, something caught the light. Just for a second. A shine. Cold. Silver. Mercer leaned closer and gently lifted the blanket. And there it was. A black handgun. Taped flat beneath the baby's seat, right under the soft cushion. Loaded. Barrel facing up. "Gun," Mercer muttered, standing quickly. "Everybody move back, right now." Gasps spread through the terminal. Security rushed in. The woman froze, her face pale as paper. Her lips trembled. "Please, it's not what you think." Mercer pointed. step away from the stroller. Slowly. I can't. He's my baby, she whispered. Angel stayed on alert, still blocking the stroller. One officer tried to guide the woman back. Ma'am, for your safety and the child's, we need you to cooperate. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't mean for this. I was just trying to get home. Mercer glanced at her, then at the gun. Nothing about this made sense. Why would a mother hide a loaded weapon beneath her own child? Was she forced to do this? Angel finally sat but didn't take her eyes off the stroller. Mercer spoke softly. You saw it before any of us did, huh? Angel gave a low whine. This wasn't just instinct. It was something more. Something Mercer had learned to trust over the years. Whatever this woman was running from, it was real. Angel hadn't disobeyed. She'd acted on something no human could see, and this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The baby kept crying. The mother's face was frozen in panic. Angel hadn't moved an inch. Mercer stood still, one hand on his holster, the other gripping Angel's leash. But he didn't need to pull. She was steady, eyes fixed on the stroller like it was a live wire. I said it's not what you think, the woman cried again, voice cracking. You're hiding a loaded firearm under a child, Mercer said calmly. You need to step away, now. The woman's hands trembled as she let go of the stroller. Please just listen to me. Angel didn't blink. Her breathing was heavy but quiet, her body tense. Mercer motioned for backup. Two officers flanked the woman, guiding her gently away from the stroller. Don't hurt my baby, she begged, turning back toward them. He doesn't know. He has nothing to do with this. No one's hurting anyone, Mercer said. We're just trying to keep him safe. The infant whimpered again, his tiny arms flailing against the blanket. Mercer stepped forward and crouched beside Angel. You knew, didn't you? He whispered. Angel's nose twitched. She didn't look away. Mercer lifted the seat pad with one hand and saw it clearly now. Tape, wires, and a black Glock 19, loaded and ready. But it wasn't just the weapon. It was how carefully it had been hidden. Wrapped tightly, tucked deep enough that no scan would have caught it easily. This wasn't sloppy work. This was intentional. Serial numbers scratched off. 1, officer said over his shoulder. Looks like someone wanted this untraceable. Mercer didn't answer. His eyes stayed on the child. Who hides a gun under their own baby? He muttered. Angel whined softly. The woman was pacing now, hands in her hair. You don't understand. I wasn't smuggling. I swear I was trying to protect him. From what? Mercer asked, looking directly at her. She stopped. Her shoulders sagged. From his father. Silence fell. One of the officers looked at Mercer, unsure. Angel finally sat down, the tension in her body easing just slightly. I know how this looks, the woman whispered, tears spilling now, but I had no choice. Mercer stood slowly. We'll get the full story, but right now you're coming with us, for your safety and his. Angel rose to her feet again, this time standing between Mercer and the stroller. She didn't bark. She didn't growl. She simply stood there, still guarding. Because whatever this woman was hiding, Angel knew it wasn't just a weapon. It was something far more dangerous, something no one had seen, until now. Melissa sat stiffly in the metal chair, arms wrapped around her baby like armor. Her eyes darted between the officers in the room. Angel stood by the door, but her focus hadn't shifted from the infant, not for a second. Mercer paced slowly. Ma'am, I need you to hand the baby to Officer Ramirez. No, Melissa snapped. He's sleeping, he's had a long flight. Just let me hold him. Mercer crouched beside her. Melissa, Angel isn't just reacting to the gun, she's still alert. That means something else is wrong. There's nothing else, she said, hugging the baby tighter. He's just tired, that's all. Angel let out a soft growl, not threatening, just urgent. Mercer had seen that behavior before. It meant danger wasn't over. Ramirez stepped forward, hands out. I'm a mother too. I promise we'll be gentle. Please, let us check. Melissa looked down at her baby. His cheeks were red, and his tiny hands twitched in his sleep. Her voice cracked. "Please don't hurt him." "We won't," Mercer said gently. "But we have to check the stroller." Reluctantly, she stood. Ramirez carefully took the baby, rocking him softly. Angel didn't move, but her breathing grew heavier. Mercer turned to the stroller and slowly removed the baby blanket. Beneath, it was the soft pad, but it felt too thick. He ran his hand over it. Something inside. With a small knife, he cut the seam. Foam spilled out, along with a second magazine, fully loaded, and beneath that, more compartments, sealed tightly with tape. There were bullets hidden in every crevice, too many for just self-defense. "Jesus," one officer muttered. Mercer held up the magazine. This wasn't careless. Someone packed this for a reason. Angel let out a low, steady whine. Melissa turned away. "You lied," Mercer said quietly. "This wasn't just about protection, was it?" Melissa's voice was barely a whisper. "I didn't know what else to do." He looked at her for a long moment. Angel moved closer to Ramirez, sniffing the baby again, then settling beside his feet like a silent shield. "Your baby's safe," Mercer said. "Now tell us what you were running from." Melissa closed her eyes. Her body sagged like the truth was too heavy to hold any longer. Angel rested her head near the child's feet, still and watchful. Whatever this was, Mercer knew one thing. Angel hadn't just sniffed out a weapon, she'd sensed fear. The kind no scanner could ever catch, and that fear was only just beginning to surface. Melissa stared at the cold table, her voice trembling. "I was trying to protect my son. That's all I ever wanted." Mercer exchanged a look with the Homeland Security agent who had just entered, Agent Powell. She sat across from Melissa and placed a recorder on the table. "We're here to listen," Powell said gently. "Start from the beginning." Angel lay quietly beside Mercer's feet, her body calm now but her eyes wide open. She was listening, too. Melissa took a shaky breath. "His name is Robert. We met in Seattle. He was charming at first. Sweet. But after we got married, everything changed." Mercer leaned in. "What did he do?" She wiped her cheek. "He isolated me, tracked my phone, checked every text. When I got pregnant, it got worse." Powell nodded slowly. "Did he hurt you?" Melissa's silence said it all. Angel let out a low exhale and pressed her head gently against Mercer's leg. Melissa continued. "He said if I left, he'd take my son. He said no one would believe me, that he had friends everywhere, police, lawyers, judges." "And the gun?" Mercer asked. "Why hide it like that?" Her eyes filled again. "I stole it from his safe. I didn't know how else to protect us. I knew if he ever found us, he wouldn't come empty-handed." Powell leaned forward. "Why not tell authorities in Seoul?" "My visa was running out," she said. "I had to come back. I was going to try Canada. I had contacts there, but I never made it." Mercer studied her. "You knew hiding a weapon like that could have hurt your baby." "I know," she whispered. "But Robert never touched diapers, never pushed strollers. I thought, if he found us, it'd be the one place he'd never check." Angel rose and walked toward Melissa. Slowly, she rested her head near the baby's legs. Melissa looked down. "She knew," she whispered. "Didn't she?" Mercer nodded. "Angel always knows." The room went still. Angel once again had seen what no one else did, not just the danger hidden in metal and tape, but the pain buried deep in a mother's heart. And now, the real danger had a name. Melissa's fingers shook as she reached for the thin gold chain around her neck. It was simple, barely noticeable, just a small cross. But her grip on it was tight, like it was more than just jewelry. Mercer watched her carefully. "You said you had proof. Where is it?" She nodded slowly. "It's in here," she whispered. "In the cross." Agent Powell leaned forward. "What do you mean?" With trembling hands, Melissa unclasped the chain and placed the cross on the table. Then, using her fingernail, she slid the back of it open. Inside was a tiny USB drive. "I copied everything," she said, her voice quiet but clear. "Videos, audio, bank statements, messages, proof of what he did, of what he planned." Mercer stared at the tiny device. Something so small, yet it held everything she'd risked her life for. "He didn't know I had it," she continued. "I wore it every day. He thought it was just sentimental. My mother's cross." Angel lay on the floor, ears perked up now, her body still but focused. Powell took the drive carefully and stood. "I'll have this analyzed. If what you say is true, this changes everything." Melissa looked down. "It is. It's all true. Every second of it." Mercer sat beside Angel, placing a hand gently on her back. She didn't move. She just kept her eyes on Melissa and the baby like she understood how close they'd come to being erased from sight. "Why not give it to the police before?" he asked softly. She looked at him, her face tired. "I tried. Once. But they were his friends. They ignored me. He found out. After that night I stopped trying." Mercer didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Angel shifted, rising to her feet, and slowly walked to Melissa. She rested her chin beside the baby, then looked up at her with calm, watchful eyes. Melissa gave a weak smile. "She knew I wasn't lying. Before any of you did." Mercer nodded. "She always knows," Powell returned, her face serious. "We're running the data now. If this checks out, we'll protect you. Both of you." Melissa exhaled for the first time in hours. A full breath. She had carried her story in silence, wrapped in fear, hidden in a cross. And now, thanks to Angel, the truth was finally coming to light. The interview room was cold. Melissa sat under harsh fluorescent lights, her hands wrapped tightly around a paper cup of untouched coffee. On the other side of the glass, Agent Powell reviewed the contents of the USB. Mercer sat across from Melissa, silent, waiting. Angel lay at his feet, eyes open, body calm but alert, like she knew there was more to hear. Melissa's voice was soft. "He had cameras in the nursery. He tracked my phone. Every time I stepped outside, he called within minutes." Mercer leaned forward. "You tried to leave before?" She nodded. "Twice. The first time he dragged me back home by my hair. The second time he threatened to hurt my parents if I ever tried again." Angel let out a quiet huff and shifted closer to Mercer. "I changed Benjamin's birth date," she said suddenly. "On the passport. He's 5 months, not 7. I was scared he'd track us by records." Mercer kept his voice low. "Why the stroller? Why hide the gun there?" Melissa swallowed. "Because Robert never touched it, never buckled him in, never looked inside. He said child care was my job. And the gun?" She blinked hard. "He kept it in a locked drawer. I took it the night we left. I knew he'd come after us. I didn't want to shoot anyone. I just needed to feel safe." "You understand how risky that was," Mercer said. "I do," she whispered. "I've replayed it every night since. But I didn't know where else to hide it. I just knew, if he caught us and we were done." Powell entered with a folder in hand. "The files check out. Everything she said is real. Video footage, voice recordings, financial control, threats. He's dangerous." Angel stood now and walked over to Melissa. She didn't bark. She just sat beside her, quiet and still. Melissa looked down at her. "She believed me, from the start." Mercer nodded. "She didn't just sniff out a weapon, she sniffed out fear." Melissa wiped her cheek. "What happens now?" Powell looked her in the eye. "Now we protect you." Angel let out a small sigh and rested beside the stroller, her job not over, but finally understood. And in that room full of pain, something new entered the space. Hope. Angel sat quietly by the stroller, eyes locked on the baby, ears twitching at the slightest sound. She didn't need commands now. She knew her purpose. Mercer stood beside her, arms crossed, his thoughts heavy. For 3 years, Angel had obeyed without hesitation. Until that night. Until Melissa. Until a cry that wasn't loud, but loud enough for Angel's heart to hear. She never broke training, Mercer said quietly to Powell. She made a decision. Powell glanced at the dog, then nodded. And it saved a life. Melissa was resting in a secure room, her baby asleep in her arms. For the first time in days, her body wasn't trembling. Angel hadn't just reacted to a weapon. She had felt something deeper. The baby's tension, Melissa's fear. A scent no human could define, but one she recognized. She knew, Mercer whispered again. She knew it wasn't about crime. It was about danger. Earlier, when Angel refused to move from the stroller, Mercer thought she was disobeying. But now he understood. She wasn't resisting a command. She was protecting. Sometimes, Mercer muttered, the dog knows before we do. Angel looked up at him, tail barely wagging. You don't need praise, do you? He smiled faintly. You just need to know the people you love are safe. A nurse passed by, glancing down at Angel. She hasn't left the baby's side since they moved them. She won't, Mercer replied. Inside that dog was more than training and muscle. There was instinct, compassion, judgment. She had stared down danger, not with teeth but with unshakable purpose. Powell approached slowly. They're prepping new identities for Melissa and the baby. Witness protection, full relocation. Angel shifted slightly as if listening. Mercer knelt beside her. We'll see them again, he said softly. Just not the way we want to. Angel blinked slowly, then looked back toward the baby's room. She wasn't just a tool, not just a trained nose. She was something greater, a guardian, a soul that listened where others overlooked. That moved when silence screamed louder than words. And in breaking the rules, she had done the one thing Mercer never expected. She'd proven she understood the weight of life itself. It didn't take long for the evidence from Melissa's cross to tear open a world her husband thought he controlled. The videos, the calls, the documents, everything lined up, the threats, the isolation, the bruises. The man behind the mask, Robert Keller, was finally exposed. He's in custody, Powell said as she entered the room. His security licenses have been revoked. He's facing charges for abuse, intimidation, and evidence tampering. Mercer nodded. And Melissa? She's being moved to a safe house, Powell replied. Her parents just arrived on emergency visas. The baby's finally smiling again. Angel stood at the doorway, tail still, eyes calm. She had waited for this moment. Not for justice, but for peace. The weapon charge couldn't be erased. But the court saw what really happened. Melissa hadn't been smuggling, she'd been surviving. The prosecutors offered a deal. No prison time, counseling, community service, and protection. She's not free yet, Mercer said quietly, watching. Angel lie down again, but she's not running anymore. A few days later, the team gathered in a private room at the airport. No cameras, no podium. Just a small group of officers who knew what really happened that night. Garcia cleared his throat and stepped forward. Angel, step up. She walked forward, steady and proud. Garcia reached into a small box and pulled out a leather collar. Hanging from it was a round silver tag. One word was engraved into the metal. Protector. We don't give awards to dogs, Garcia said softly, but today we make an exception. Mercer knelt and fastened the collar around Angel's neck. You earned it, girl. You didn't just follow orders. You followed your heart. Angel licked his hand once, then sat beside him like she'd always belonged there. Melissa wasn't at the ceremony. She and her baby were already being moved under new names. A new life. Far from the eyes of the man who thought he'd never be caught, but she'd left a letter. Mercer opened it quietly after the others left. I don't know how to thank you. You saw me. You believed me. But more than anyone, Angel knew. She didn't need my words. She only needed to feel our fear, and she chose to stand in the way. Please tell her. We're safe now, because of her. Mercer folded the letter slowly, looked at Angel, and whispered, You heard that, didn't you? Angel didn't move, but her silence spoke everything. 6 months later, the house looked like any other on the quiet street. Simple, safe, and full of life. Mercer stepped out of his SUV and opened the back door. "You ready, girl?" he asked. Angel jumped down softly, tail wagging slow and steady. She remembered this place. Melissa opened the front door before they even knocked. Her face looked brighter now, peaceful finally. And in her arms, baby Benjamin giggled at the sight of them. "Officer Mercer," she smiled. "And Angel, come in." Inside, toys were scattered across the floor. Laughter floated in from the kitchen where Melissa's parents were preparing lunch, the sound of a home that had healed. Angel moved straight to Benjamin, her nose gently brushing his foot. The baby squealed with joy and reached for her fur. Melissa chuckled. "He hasn't stopped talking about her. He points at every dog and says Angel." Mercer knelt beside his partner. She missed him too. They stayed for an hour, sharing stories, catching up. Melissa told them about her new job working remotely and how Benjamin was starting to crawl. She also shared something else. "We're adopting a dog," she said, smiling. "A rescue like Angel, trained to protect women starting over." Mercer nodded. "That's a perfect match." "He'll never be a patrol dog," she added, "but he'll guard our hearts." Angel lay near the couch, tail thumping as Benjamin toddled around her, babbling happily. Mercer watched, his chest full of quiet pride. The moment to leave came too soon. Melissa walked them to the door. Her voice lowered as she looked down at Angel. "You saved my baby," she whispered. Angel stepped forward and touched her nose gently to Melissa's hand. No bark, no sound, just stillness and meaning. Melissa blinked back tears. "I hope she knows what she did." "She knows," Mercer said softly. "She never forgets." They walked back to the SUV. Angel hopped in but turned to look out the window until the house faded from sight. Mercer didn't speak for a while. Then he glanced at her in the mirror. "You did something no one else could, girl." Angel laid her head on her paws, eyes still watching, still listening. Because even after goodbyes, guardians never really leave. They just stay close enough to feel when they're needed again.